The inevitabilities of life, death, taxes. Preston North End finishing mid-table. Back in March, fellow YouTuber Vizza did a video called Bristol City, the most boring club in English football. Now for years that was correct. Whenever you looked at the championship table, you'd have different teams near the top and bottom, but you could always guarantee in the middle of the table were Bristol City and Preston North End, both holding hands, never letting go of each other. But now Bristol City has had enough. They've turned around and said, "You're holding me back," and now they're actually becoming quite an exciting team. Preston, though, they're not. They've gone nearly a decade where they've finished between 7th and 14th in the championship table. Since the start of the 2000-2001 season, they've had just one promotion and one relegation. In that time, Brighton have gone from the 4th tier of English football to the Premier League and had 7 straight seasons in the top flight. So why is this happening, and could it possibly change anytime soon? Let's find out. I'm Dilks from the 2nd tier, and this is Preston North End, the actual most boring club in English football. If you ask any Preston fan what's the main thing holding them back, they'll tell you it's the owners. And they're right. This past summer, Oxford and Plymouth were the only championship teams who spent less money on transfer fees than Preston. And for a long time, they've been a club who like to keep a tight leash on their purse strings. They've only spent £2 million on a player twice in their history, and very often rely on free signings and loans. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Making sure you don't spend beyond your means is obviously a responsible thing to do. And loads of clubs in recent years have shown it's possible to have success without breaking the bank. Look at Ipswich and Luton, for example. The problem with Preston is they don't do it very well. These are Preston's 3 most expensive signings from the past 10 years. We start with Milutin Osmajic, their club record signing at just over £2 million. He scored just 8 goals in his only full season in English football so far. When he's not biting people, he's looked fairly sharp, but still has a long way to go to repaying that transfer fee. Jeppe Ockels is a winger who cost nearly £2 million and only joined this summer, so it's too early to tell with him, but he has spent most of his time on the bench, having only started 1 game so far this season. And Tom Bayliss, Tom Bayliss, he cost £2 million, and let's just say it's a miracle that I actually have any pictures of him in a Preston shirt to have in front of you right now, because in 3 years at Preston he started just 2 league games before having his contract terminated. Just a reminder, he cost £2 million. A pretty damning indictment of how much Preston have failed to progress in recent years is this. Alex Neil was in charge of them 4 seasons ago, remember that. Since he left the club, Preston have spent nearly £7 million on transfer fees, a lot of money by Preston standards. 19 players have come in on permanent transfers, but at the time of this video coming out, 5 of the 8 players who have played the most minutes for Preston this season were all signed when Alex Neil was the manager over 4 seasons ago. If that's not a sign of a lack of progression, I don't know what is. This video is brought to you by our good friends at SBK. If you haven't heard of them yet, then where have you been? SBK's comprehensive range of markets and exclusive offers makes it the best place to bet on the championship this season. Whether you're creating an accumulator or customizing your bet builder, SBK has got you covered. Don't believe us? Sign up today and find out. Preston's squad is full of 6 out of 10 players. When you compare the players to other squads in the championship, it's really difficult to pick out anyone who would get into a top half team. Pretty much every championship team has at least 1 or 2 players. With Preston, it's really difficult. They're all just average players. The players they've signed over recent years are just average players. If this was Football Manager, every player would be a 3-star rating, good championship player. If this was FIFA, every player would be 68 overall. There's a strong stench of mediocrity around this Preston squad. There's not a player who can get fans out of their seats. If you look at Bristol City, yeah, maybe they've been a bit boring in recent years, but there's a handful of players who can do that. At Preston, there is no one. It's not always been this way though. Under Alex Neil, they actually had a pretty exciting team. You had Ben Davies at the back, who came through the Preston Academy and was one of the most highly rated young defenders in the country at the time. The midfield 3 of Ben Pearson, Alan Brown and Daniel Johnson. It was the perfect mix of energy and creativity. All 3 were in their early to mid-20s and regarded as some of the best midfielders in the division. And Callum Robinson was one of the most hotly sought after forwards in the championship, which eventually led to him leaving for £6.5 million. This team was the closest Preston got to the Premier League in the past 15 years, and even then it still felt like they were quite a way off considering the financial power of some of the teams actually in the playoffs around that time. And what's happened with Preston since then is they've gone stale. As mentioned earlier, there's still a fair few players there from the Aylex era, and the new additions they brought in since then have hardly set the world alight, and that's led to them just achieving the same thing season after season, no matter who the manager is. Ryan Lowe is a case in point here. His Bury side won promotion from League Two playing brilliant attacking football. They scored by far the most goals in the league. He would move to Plymouth, where he would once again win promotion from League Two playing attacking football, and then he would leave Argyle with them sat in the playoffs of League One. He went to Preston and would finish 13th, 12th and 10th, consistently being amongst the lowest scorers in the league, and Ryan Lowe constantly complaining about not having enough money to spend on players. He would leave after one game of this season. Paul Heckingbottom's since come in, and it's early days, but it's fair to say there doesn't look like there's a drastic change happening. The risk for Preston North End as a club now is that they've spent so long accomplishing very little that they do start to go backwards. This season they've not had a great start. They're 20th at the time of recording. Now they may very well climb back into their usual mid-table position, but maybe this is the season that they don't. Preston have had so many years of little progression that, as I say, things have just gone stale, and that lack of excitement could very well cost them. You have to respect Preston's owners in a way. They've never put the club in any financial risk. You look at other Championship sides over the years who have gambled on trying to get to the Premier League. Preston have never done that, and for that reason, as long as the current owners are in charge, Preston will never be in any financial trouble. But the problem is, football's about entertainment. If you ask any Preston fan, they will tell you that it is often boring supporting their club. If they were clearly trying to make some progress, then I could let them off with finishing mid-table pretty much every season. But the problem with Preston is, I'm not entirely sure that they are trying to make any progress. It just seems like they're pretty happy with being a stable Championship side who are getting by with spending the bare minimum. When Ryan Lowe left at the start of the season, it was a chance for them to try something different. Why not gamble on a young coach in a similar mould to Kieran McKenna at Ipswich, or cast the net out further and go for a foreign manager similar to that of Regis Lebris at Sunderland? What they did instead was get in Paul Heckingbottom. Now, I like Paul Heckingbottom as a manager. He's a good manager, but the problem is he's just good. You know what you're getting with him. Preston's squad is just good. Everything about Preston is just good, and just good leaves you in mid-table every season. And so that's why more than likely Preston will end up in their same old position and continue to make very little progress. Will they end up making any progress in the next few seasons? Who knows? Who honestly knows at this stage? But what I can say for sure is Preston North End are without a doubt the most boring club in English football right now, and will continue to be from the looks of it for the next few years, unless they eventually try something different. So what do you think? Are Preston North End the most boring club in English football? Let me know in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe for more content like this. I'm Ryan Dilks from the Second Tier, and we'll be back again very soon.